Hello, my name is Aylin Pulido, and this is my presentation on income inequality and if it harms economic growth. Income inequality is a phenomenon which income is distributed in an unequal manner among a population. According to French economist Thomas Piketty, the rise in wealth inequality in the United States is due to the rate of return for owned capital exceeding the overall rate of economic growth. Individuals who control wealth will accumulate it at a faster rate than the economy can produce, and so they will control a much larger portion of the overall wealth. Income disparities have become so pronounced in the United States that America's top 10% average 9 times as much income as the bottom 90%. The top 1% average 40 times more income than the bottom 90%. Americans in the top 0.1% make 198 times the income of the bottom 90%. According to the Congressional Budget Office, after taxes, the top 1% incomes are increasing even faster than before taxes. Since 1979, the before tax average was at 186.8%. The after-tax average came out to 192.2%. As the income of the top 1% is increasing, wages after inflation for the working class have been stagnant for more than 3 decades in the United States. Between 1979 and 2007, paycheck income of the top 1% of U.S. earners saw a 256% increase, while the bottom 90% saw a 21% increase in wages from 1979 to 2015. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the gap between the rich and the poor in most OECD countries is at its highest level in the past 30 years. If the rich own so much of the world's wealth, how is this good for our economy and economic growth? The answer is it's not. The OECD found a negative and statistically significant correlation between income inequality and economic growth. The Gini index is a statistical measurement of distribution that measures the income of wealth distribution of a nation's residents and is commonly used to measure inequality. The 3-point rise in inequality was the average for OECD states over the last 20 years, meaning that there was a total 8.5% GDP loss in that period. Rising inequality went down 6 and 7 percentage points in the United States. At 6 points, that would be a 0.3% hit to U.S. GDP every year for the last 20 years. Income inequality affects growth by undermining education opportunities for children from poor socioeconomic backgrounds, lowering social mobility, and depressing skills development among individuals with poor backgrounds. Children from the bottom 40% are missing expensive educational opportunities. Wealthier parents have more access to resources, both in terms of time and money, to prepare their children to succeed in school. This can threaten future economic growth. With only few individuals receiving the best education, there is an ineffective development in the economic potential of the future workforce. We must provide good quality educational opportunities for everyone if we want to grow as an economy. According to research conducted by the Russell Sage Foundation, greater inequality is associated with lower social mobility. For Western industrialized economies, countries with higher economic inequality have a greater intergenerational persistence advantage and lower social mobility. Intergenerational persistence advantage measures the strength of the association between the incomes of parents and those of their adult children. The U.S. has high inequality and low levels of mobility. Evidence suggests that the mobility rose during much of the 20th century and stabilized during the decades which inequality increased. Income inequality will continue to grow if policymakers, government representatives, and corporations do not address the problem. Policy towards decreasing the income gap are non-existent. Although certain states in the U.S. recently increased minimum wage, the increase itself is next to nothing compared to the previous wage. Elected officials must propose policies that increase minimum wage, increase taxes on the rich and private businesses, invest in education, and expand on social welfare programs. There is so much we can do to reduce the income inequality, but that can only be done when the government stops favoring corporations over people.